Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
We're here to give you that strategic shortcut, tearing through some really dense material to give you the clarity you need for the week ahead.
And today we are definitely tackling something dense.
We really are. It's Chris Velasquez's expansive guide, vision that moves from promise to purpose.
When we say expansive, we mean it. It's over 900 pages. This is a serious work for pastors, ministry leaders, Christian professionals.
Right. And it's not just about spiritual discernment. It also gets into emotional resilience, strategic clarity.
Absolutely. Our mission here is to sort of pull out the core roadmap.
Because so many leaders have that initial calling, that divine inspiration, but then how do you translate that into, something practical, measurable?
Exactly. How do you bridge the theological ideal with the, frankly, physical structure you need to make it happen? It's for the leader who feels that mandate, but maybe their strategy doesn't quite match the scale of the promise yet.
Okay, so let's jump in with the foundational concept, because it really reframes what we think of as leadership.
It does.
Velasquez sets up this stark contrast. He argues that true leadership, it doesn't begin with personal ambition. It starts with a quiet, divine revelation.
And that one idea transforms leaders from what he calls dreamers
Into stewards of God's promises.
That distinction is the engine for the entire book. I mean, think about it. Human vision starts with ambition. It asks, what are my goals?
What do I want to achieve?
Exactly. What metrics will prove my success? But a godly vision, it begins with an encounter. It comes from the weight of revelation, not from some strategic planning retreat.
So if the corporate leader is asking, what's the 3-year plan? The leader in this framework is asking something totally different.
Completely. They're asking, what has God explicitly said?
And what must my immediate faithful response be?
Yes.
But let's get practical. For a listener who, has payroll to meet and a board to answer to, how does being a steward change day-to-day decisions, like budgeting or hiring?
Oh, it changes everything, especially how you define success and failure. The dreamer, who's driven by ambition, they see success as growth. More numbers, more funding.
And failures when the momentum stalls.
Right. But the steward, for them, success is measured by fidelity, by faithfulness, and failure is disobedience.
So the budget then becomes an expression of that obedience.
It has to be. You're not managing resources to maximize your personal impact. You're organizing the faithful labor needed to fulfill a promise that was given to you.
That's a huge pivot. It means a setback isn't a funding crisis. It's a test of faith in the original commitment.
You see it everywhere in Scripture. Take Abram. His vision wasn't a spreadsheet. It was just a command. Go to the land I will show you.
He had no map, just an instruction.
And that instruction birthed a journey. The journey itself is what unveiled the purpose.
And this really gets at the weight the book places on that divine revelation. It's not just a good idea God is sharing.
No, it's an entrustment. He's entrusting a leader with a piece of his redemptive will. That's why the vision is covenantal. It's a divine trust.
Which changes the leader's main question, right? Instead of frantically asking, how do I make this happen fast?
The steward is asking, how do I walk faithfully with disciplined organization toward what God has already guaranteed? It shifts the whole focus from the results to the relationship with the promiser.
And that relationship is key, because the framework stresses that vision never comes without a process.
Never. Between the promise and the purpose, there's always what the book calls the crucible of preparation.
That sounds grueling. For a modern leader, a crucible sounds like the opposite of efficiency. It sounds like organizational suffering.
It can be, and the book tackles that head on. It basically says that if you're a true vision carrier, you have to be prepared for developmental suffering. This isn't just a nice theological idea, it's a reality check.
So for a leader today, that crucible might be an unexpected lawsuit.
Or a sudden collapse in funding. The painful betrayal of a core team member. These are the modern equivalents of Joseph's story. He had the dream, but he had to survive the pit and the prison first.
Joseph is the perfect example. His dream survived slavery, false accusations, everything. And then you have the entire nation of Israel, promised a land of milk and honey.
But first, 40 years in the wilderness. It's a pattern.
And the book uses these stories to anchor the absolute necessity of endurance. It leans hard on that verse in Hebrews.
That you have need of endurance so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. And this isn't passive waiting. It's active. It's strategic faith.
Okay, that brings us to the biggest tension point for a lot of leaders. The perceived clash between deep faith and sharp strategy.
Yeah, we tend to put them in separate boxes.
Totally. Faith is for the prayer meeting, strategy is for the quarterly meeting. How does this resource argue that they're not just compatible, but that they actually depend on each other?
It says they're inseparable in God's design. Faith provides the direction, the what and the why.
And strategy provides the discipline, the how, and the when.
Yes. And that integration is what he calls strategic faith. It's the difference between just having a spiritual experience and actually building the physical structure to house that promise.
But where do they clash? I mean, what happens when a spirit-led vision seems, frankly, physically irresponsible or organizationally impossible?
The book's answer to that friction is that if the vision is truly God-given, it's never chaotic. It actually demands structure because the divine is orderly.
The exemplar here is Nehemiah.
Real ultimate exemplar. His vision starts in tears. He's mourning the ruins of Jerusalem. That's the deep, faith-based response.
But he doesn't stop there. His prayer immediately turns into an incredibly detailed, audacious plan.
I mean, it's stunning. He secures royal decrees for resources. He mobilizes different groups for specific tasks. He even anticipates opposition with armed guards.
So he moves from that initial burden, that word from God, to just rigorous logistical implementation.
Absolutely. Procurement, personnel management, project timelines, risk mitigation. Any modern project manager would recognize what he was doing. His spiritual commitment demanded every single one of those tactical elements.
And what's so helpful for you, the listener, is that the book doesn't just give you the theology, it gives you the methodology.
Right. The structure of the book itself is designed to force that integration.
You see it in the actionable insights at the end of each chapter.
And those aren't just generic questions. They're specific journaling prompts, team exercises to break through bottlenecks. They force you to translate the theology into, say, revising a budget line item based on that steward mindset.
It's the faithful organization of obedience, making sure you move past just the inspirational sermon and into measurable impact. So moving beyond the individual leader, let's talk about the communal nature of vision. The book is really forceful on this point. God's vision moves through a people, not just a person.
Yeah, this part is a real challenge to the leader's ego. He defines a vision that dies with the founder as just a campaign.
A campaign, an initiative tied to a personality.
Whereas a true vision is a destiny that's carried forward by a collective.
So the hardest strategic move is letting go. It's about building a legacy, not just a personal brand, but how do you create that shared ownership when the original revelation was given to one person? That takes a lot of humility.
It does. The book talks a lot about discipling successors. It's about creating systems where the goal is multiplying leaders, like Paul investing in Timothy and Titus.
So the vision itself multiplies leaders, not just followers.
That's the goal. The challenge is keeping it cohesive while you're deliberately stepping back. It means being crystal clear on the non-negotiable covenant parts of the vision.
But allowing the implementation strategy to be owned by the next generation.
Yeah.
So the key isn't control, it's clarity.
Clarity about the promise, flexibility about the process, absolutely.
Okay, so if we pull all this together and ask the ultimate strategic question, what's the bridge? What connects the promise, that initial revelation, to the purpose, the final realization?
The bridge is courage?
But not courage as we usually think of it, not self-confidence.
No, not at all. It's defined as God confidence. It's the deep, quiet conviction that the promiser is faithful, no matter how impossible the path looks right now.
That's the courage that lets a leader start building like Nehemiah, endure like Joseph, and ultimately allow the vision to outlive them.
That conviction is the only resource that can stand up to both external opposition and that internal doubt that always comes up in the crucible years.
So this whole deep dive really shows that vision in this framework is a sacred trust. It demands this unique blend of spiritual discernment and clear, courageous action.
Right. It's a roadmap for any leader trying to root their innovation and revelation and turn a calling into real, sustainable, communal impact.
It's a manifesto, really, for anchoring modern leadership in ancient fidelity. It gives clarity to those who feel that calling but struggle to make it happen to the real world of budgets and people. So, as you reflect on your own journey from promise to purpose, maybe think on that ancient wisdom from Habakkuk. Write the vision, make it plain, and wait for the appointed time.
And we'd invite you to think about vision as an act of organization, an act of obedience. What is one practical, specific action you can take this week? Not just a thought or a prayer, but a concrete action.
Mhm.
A clarifying conversation, a session to write the vision down, a single courageous decision about resources. What can you do to move your divine promise just one step closer to practical purpose? Because that is how revelation becomes realization.